What happens when a former president stares into a camera like it's a courtroom? When the lights of late-night comedy collide with the cold steel of a government hearing room? And when one insult turns into a cultural explosion no one can control? Before the story goes any further, before the doors slam, before the microphones crackle, before the words that will echo across every screen in America are spoken, subscribe to Celeb Plus Tales right now. Like this video, drop a comment, and stay with us, because what you're about to witness isn't just political theater or celebrity drama. It's a collision. And once it starts, there's no cutting to commercial. The screen fades up slowly, not with music, but with silence. That kind of silence that feels heavy, deliberate. The kind that makes people lean forward without realizing it. A seal fills the frame. The lighting is sharp, unforgiving. And then he appears. Donald Trump sits rigid behind a polished desk, shoulders squared, jaw tight. His eyes don't blink as often as they used to. The camera zooms just a little too close enough to catch the tension pulling at the corners of his mouth. This isn't a rally. There's no cheering crowd, no chants, no red hats waving in the background. This is an address to the nation, and it feels different. Controlled. Dangerous. My fellow Americans, he begins, voice steady, almost calm. Almost. Across the country, living rooms quiet. Phones lower. Late-night writers pause their jokes mid-sentence. In studios from New York to Los Angeles, producers exchange looks that say the same thing. This isn't routine. Trump leans forward, hands folded. We're living in a time when truth is mocked, when ratings matter more than responsibility, and when so-called entertainers think they're untouchable. Somewhere in Hollywood, a monitor glows with his image. Jimmy Kimmel watches silently, arms crossed, lips pressed into a thin line. He's not smiling. Not joking. This isn't monologue material. Not yet. Back on screen, Trump's tone hardens. Comedy used to punch up, he says. Now it lies. Now it manipulates. And now it hides behind laughter while tearing this country apart. Social media explodes before he even finishes the sentence. Clips are cut in real time. Captions fly. The words so-called entertainers trend within minutes. Trump doesn't name names. He doesn't have to. Everyone knows who he's talking about. Everyone knows the late-night host whose jokes have sliced at him night after night, whose laughter has echoed through millions of homes at his expense. Trump pauses. A pause so long it feels intentional. Calculated. And when government agencies start protecting shows instead of the people, he continues, that's when we have a real problem. The screen cuts to black. In Washington, D.C., the next morning, the air inside the FCC hearing room is thick with anticipation. Wood-paneled walls. Flags standing stiff in the corners. Rows of cameras perched like predators. Lenses trained on the long table where lawmakers sit in a neat, intimidating line. Ted Cruz adjusts his tie, glancing down at his notes. He's read them a dozen times already, but he reads them again anyway. Around him, aides whisper. One producer mouths, "We're live in 30. Cruz nods, expression unreadable. Jimmy Kimmel isn't supposed to be the story today. Officially, the hearing is about broadcast standards, public interest obligations, the ever-gray language of regulation. But no one in this room believes that's all it is. When the gavel strikes, the sound snaps through the chamber like a gunshot. Cruz clears his throat and leans into the microphone. We're here today, he begins, to discuss whether certain programs have crossed the line from entertainment into outright political activism. The words are clinical, but his eyes flick toward the camera, knowing exactly who's watching. Across the aisle, a few heads turn. Someone scribbles furiously in a notebook. A producer in the back mouths, "Here we go." Cruz continues, voice sharpening. There are shows, very popular shows, that masquerade as comedy while pushing a partisan agenda. Shows that ridicule half the country and then cry free speech when held accountable. A murmur ripples through the room. Then he says it. And frankly, when I think of that kind of so-called humor, I think of a late-night clown who confuses sneering for satire and insults for intelligence. The room stiffens. Gasps aren't loud, but they're there. Jimmy Kimmel's name isn't spoken, but it doesn't need to be. The cameras cut to a reaction shot of the audience. One woman's mouth falls open. A man shakes his head slowly. Cruz doesn't stop. This individual, he presses on, has built a career mocking Americans who don't think like him, all while hiding behind a desk and a laugh track. In Los Angeles, the clip hits before Cruz even finishes his sentence. Kimmel's phone buzzes nonstop. Texts stack up on his screen. Producers. friends, even other hosts. He watches the footage play on a muted TV in his office. Cruz's lips move, but the insult is already echoing louder than sound ever could. Kimmel exhales, rubbing his face with both hands. For years, he's played the game. Joke, jab, move on. But this feels different. This isn't a punchline. This is a challenge. Back in D.C., Cruz finally pauses, a faint smirk tugging at his mouth. We owe it to the American people to ask whether this is entertainment, he says, or just another angry lecture disguised as a joke. The gavel comes down again, but the damage is done. By the time the hearing adjourns, the story has metastasized. Cable news runs split screens. Trump's address on one side, Cruz's remarks on the other. Commentators talk over each other, voices rising, graphics flashing. Late that afternoon, Jimmy Kimmel steps onto his stage. The audience cheers, but it's uneven. Nervous. Expectant. He stands there for a moment, soaking it in, hands on the desk. When the applause fades, he looks straight into the camera. So, he says softly, it's been an interesting couple of days. Laughter breaks out, but it's sharp, brittle. Kimmel's eyes harden just a little. I was called a clown today, he continues, by a man who once read green eggs and ham on the Senate floor. The crowd erupts. Cheers, whistles, a standing ovation from a few rows. But behind the joke, there's something else. Something simmering. Look, Kimmel says, raising a hand. If making jokes about powerful people makes me a problem, I guess I'll have to live with that. The camera cuts to his face, closer now. Serious. But let's be honest, he adds. This isn't about comedy. This is about control. The audience quiets again. Somewhere in Washington, someone watches this clip with clenched fists. And somewhere else, in a quiet room with a polished desk and a seal behind it, a former president watches too. Expression unreadable, eyes locked on the screen. Because this isn't over. Not even close. This is just the first spark. The moment Jimmy Kimmel's monologue ends, the applause lingers just a beat too long, like the audience senses they're clapping for more than a joke. The band plays, the lights dim, but backstage the mood is nothing like television magic. Phones are vibrating again. Producers whisper. Assistants hover, waiting for instructions that haven't been given yet. Kimmel steps off stage, the smile dropping from his face the second the camera light clicks off. Pull the Cruz clip again, he says quietly, voice tight. All of it. Don't cut the smirk. In Washington, that smirk is already everywhere. Ted Cruz sits in his office, jacket off now, sleeves rolled up, scrolling through his phone. Conservative outlets praise him for finally calling out Hollywood hypocrisy. Liberal commentators accuse him of bullying and grandstanding. The words fly past his eyes, but he stops on one clip in particular. Trump's address, replayed again, the line about so-called entertainers, echoing perfectly with his own remarks. Cruz leans back in his chair, exhales slowly. This wasn't accidental. This was alignment. His chief of staff steps in, closing the door behind him. Sir, they're asking if you're willing to clarify the clown comment. Cruz looks up, eyebrows raised. Clarify. He lets out a short laugh. I was very clear. The aide hesitates. Jimmy Kimmel responded on air. Cruz's eyes flicker with interest. Did he? Yes, sir. Ratings spike. Trending #1. For a split second, Cruz smiles. Not wide. Not openly. Just enough. Good, he says. That means he heard me. Across the country, in Los Angeles, Kimmel sits hunched on a couch in his office, jacket loosened, tie gone. A senior producer plays back Cruz's hearing remarks on a tablet, the words sharper now than they were live. A late-night clown who confuses sneering for satire. Kimmel shakes his head slowly. He wants a fight, he mutters. Everyone wants a fight, the producer replies. The question is how public you want it. Before Kimmel can answer, another clip starts autoplaying. Trump's address. The controlled tone. The deliberate pauses. The implication that comedy itself has become an enemy. Kimmel watches without blinking. This, he says finally, tapping the screen. This is the part that scares me. The producer frowns. Scares you? Yeah, Kimmel says quietly. Because this isn't just about me. This is about making people afraid to talk. Outside the building, fans gather. Some cheer. Some boo. Signs appear within hours. Comedy is not a crime. Laughing is free speech. Others read, late night lies and Hollywood elites out. America is splitting again, not over policy but over punchlines. The next morning, cable news studios hum like beehives. Panels fill up fast. former FCC officials, comedians, political strategists. Everyone has an opinion, and no one agrees. One commentator leans forward, eyes wide. This is unprecedented. You have a former president indirectly targeting a sitting late-night host, followed by a senator publicly insulting him during a federal hearing. Another shakes her head. What's unprecedented is a comedian thinking he's above criticism. The screen splits. Jimmy Kimmel's face on one side. Ted Cruz is on the other. Frozen frames, both mid-expression, like a boxing poster before a title fight. Back in Washington, Cruz prepares for a press scrum. Reporters crowd the hallway, microphones thrust forward like weapons. Senator Cruz, one shouts. Were your comments about Jimmy Kimmel coordinated with the former president's address? Cruz stops walking, turns slowly, smiles politely. I don't coordinate insults, he says calmly. I speak truths. Another reporter jumps in. Do you believe Jimmy Kimmel should be censored? Cruz's smile fades just a touch. I believe accountability isn't censorship, he replies. And if someone can dish it out every night, they should be able to take it. The clip is everywhere within minutes. In Los Angeles, Kimmel watches it live on a studio monitor. The audience from the previous night is gone now, replaced by an empty stage and quiet hum of equipment. So that's the line, he murmurs. Dish it out. He stands up, pacing. You know what the problem is? He says to no one in particular. They think this is about feelings. A junior writer clears his throat. Isn't it? Kimmel stops pacing. Turns. No, he says. It's about power. That night's show opens differently. No music at first. No band sting. Just Kimmel walking out slowly, hands in his pockets. The audience senses it immediately and grows quiet. I've been thinking a lot, he begins, voice low, measured, about what was said in Washington this week. Applause starts, but he raises a hand. No. Hear me out. The camera moves closer. I get called names for a living, he continues. That's fine. I'm a big boy. But when people in power start talking about holding comedians accountable, you have to ask accountable to who? A ripple of murmurs runs through the crowd. Because jokes don't make laws, Kimmel says. They don't subpoena. They don't regulate. He pauses, eyes locked on the lens. But politicians do. The audience erupts louder than before. Standing now. Phones raised. Somewhere in Texas, Ted Cruz watches this clip later that night, jaw tight. He doesn't laugh. He doesn't scoff. He texts one word to an aide. Escalating. The aide responds almost instantly. Public split. Base loves it. Cruz sets the phone down, staring at the paused image of Kimmel mid-sentence. Of course they do, he murmurs. In a quieter corner of the media landscape, something else begins to form. Rumors. Whispers. That the FCC hearing wasn't just performative. That draft language exists. That pressure is being applied behind closed doors. A former network executive appears anonymously on a podcast. I've never seen anything like this, the voice says, distorted. There's a chill in the room. People are asking what jokes are worth it now. Clips of that podcast circulate. Fear mixes with outrage. Trump, for his part, remains silent, which somehow makes it worse. When he finally posts a single line on social media, funny how some people can dish it out but cry foul when criticized. It detonates like a grenade. Kimmel reads it at his desk alone. He doesn't smile. He doesn't joke. He types a response, deletes it. Types another, deletes that. 2. Finally, he locks his phone and looks up at the empty seats beyond his desk. This is bigger than me, he says softly. And in that moment, as laughter turns into lines in the sand, as comedy becomes a battleground and words become weapons, everyone watching can feel it. The tension hasn't peaked yet. It's still climbing. By the time the third week hits, the air feels different. Heavier. Like the country itself is holding its breath. Every joke now lands with a thud. Every statement echoes longer than it should. Writers' rooms across late-night television don't laugh as easily anymore. Someone cracks a joke, and instead of laughter, there's a pause. A glance. A quiet calculation. Is this worth it? Jimmy Kimmel feels it the most. He sits at his desk long after the staff has gone home. The studio lights dim to a soft glow. Cue cards lie untouched. The monologue for tonight's show is half-written, sentences crossed out, rewritten, crossed out again. He rubs his temples, staring at a single line he can't decide whether to keep. They want silence. He whispers it aloud, testing how it sounds. It feels too real, too honest. His phone buzzes. Unknown number. He ignores it. It buzzes again. Same number. He exhales and answers. Yeah. A familiar voice comes through, calm but edged with tension. Jimmy, it's my understanding you're planning another segment about the hearing. Kimmel straightens. And, the voice continues carefully, I'm advising caution. Advising or warning? Kimmel asks. A pause. Too long. Just be smart, the voice says. This isn't like before. The call ends. No goodbye. Kimmel stares at the phone in his hand, then sets it face down on the desk as if it might bite him. He looks out toward the empty audience seats again, imagining them filled, imagining the reaction. Cheers. Boos. Silence. Somewhere deep down, a line is crossed. In Washington, Ted Cruz stands behind a podium at a conservative summit, basking in applause. The crowd is energized, almost electric. He raises a hand, and the noise settles just enough for him to speak. Let me be clear, Cruz says, voice booming. No one is against comedy. But when comedy becomes propaganda, when it mocks millions of Americans while shielding itself from accountability, someone has to say enough. The applause roars back, louder this time. And if that makes me the villain in a late-night monologue, he adds, smiling thinly, I think I'll survive. The clip goes viral within minutes. Backstage at the show, Kimmel watches it on a monitor as the audience files in. Their laughter drifts through the walls, unaware of the storm gathering just feet away. So that's his angle, Kimmel mutters. Propaganda. A producer approaches cautiously. We're on in 10. Kimmel nods. He stands, straightens his jacket, and walks toward the stage entrance. Just before stepping out, he stops. Hey, he says quietly, turning to the room. Whatever happens out there, thanks. No one responds at first. Then someone claps. Another joins. It's not loud. It's not celebratory. It's solidarity. The band strikes. The curtain opens. The audience cheers, but it's different tonight. Charged. Expectant. They know something is coming. Kimmel steps into the light, squinting slightly. He smiles automatically, waves, but the smile fades as he reaches his desk. He waits. Lets the applause die down completely. So, he says softly, I've been accused of a lot of things this week. Laughter ripples through the crowd. I've been called a clown, a propagandist. Apparently, I'm now a national security threat. Bigger laughter. Applause. But here's the thing, Kimmel continues, voice lowering. When people in power start telling you what jokes are acceptable, that's not about comedy anymore. The room quiets. That's about fear. You can hear a pin drop. Kimmel leans forward, hands gripping the desk. I make jokes, he says. That's my job. Senators make laws. Former presidents shape narratives. And when those worlds collide, it's not the joke that's dangerous. A woman in the front row nods, eyes glossy. Kimmel pauses, swallowing hard. What's dangerous, he finishes, is pretending this is just entertainment. The applause that follows isn't wild. It's heavy, meaningful. Some stand. Some don't. Cameras pan the crowd, catching faces that look shaken rather than amused. In Texas, Ted Cruz watches the clip on his phone in his office. He doesn't interrupt it. He watches all the way to the end. When it's over, he sets the phone down slowly. That, he says to the empty room, was a mistake. Within hours, anonymous sources leak that Cruz is pushing for expanded oversight discussions. The word review appears in headlines. Review of late-night broadcast standards. FCC faces pressure amid comedy controversy. The industry panics. Executives schedule emergency meetings. Lawyers are brought in. Emails marked confidential bounce between inboxes. A veteran comedian tweets, I've been doing this 40 years. Never seen them this scared. The tweet gets deleted an hour later. Trump breaks his silence again that evening. He appears unannounced on a conservative network. No introduction. No warning. Just his face filling the screen. People are very upset, Trump says, nodding slowly. Very upset about what passes for comedy these days. The host tries to interject, but Trump waves him off. They can insult anyone they want, Trump continues. But the moment they're criticized, suddenly it's oppression. He smiles. Not warmly. That's not how it works. The clip floods the internet. Jimmy Kimmel watches it from his kitchen barefoot, late at night. The house is quiet. His family asleep upstairs. The television glow reflects off the counter. For the first time, he doesn't feel angry. He feels tired. He turns the TV off and leans against the counter, staring into the darkness. The jokes, the applause, the noise, it all feels far away. This isn't a bit anymore. This is a standoff. And everyone knows it. Because tomorrow, something is going to give. The breaking point doesn't arrive with a shout. It arrives with a notification. It's early morning when it hits, phones lighting up across the country at the same time. A leaked memo. 2 pages. FCC letterhead. No signatures, but enough language to chill anyone who reads it. Phrases like public trust, review of content standards, and potential overreach of broadcast influence jump off the screen. It's not a ruling. Not yet. But it's a warning. In newsrooms, producers freeze mid-step. In writers' rooms, jokes die on whiteboards. In Hollywood, agents start making calls they never thought they'd have to make. Jimmy Kimmel reads the memo in silence. He's back in. His office, coffee untouched, the studio already buzzing outside. His producer stands across from him, arms folded tight. "This is serious," she says. "They're testing the water." Kimmel nods slowly. "Yeah," he replies. "I know. What do you want to do tonight?" He doesn't answer right away. He looks past her, through the glass, at the empty stage. The desk. The microphone. The place that has always felt like armor. "Tonight," he finally says. "I'm not joking." The show opens to thunderous applause, but it fades quickly when the audience realizes something is different. No band sting. No playful grin. Kimmel walks out slower than usual, stops center stage instead of going straight to the desk. "I'm going to say this once," he begins, voice steady but raw. "I'm not asking for sympathy. And I'm not asking for protection." The room is silent. "I'm asking a question," he continues. "If comedians have to worry about government reviews, who's next? Journalists? Musicians? You?" A murmur spreads through the crowd. "This country doesn't need quieter comedians," Kimmel says. "It needs braver citizens." The applause that follows is overwhelming. People stand. Some clap above their heads. Others wipe their eyes. The moment spills out of the studio instantly, shared, clipped, replayed millions of times. And then comes the backlash. Ted Cruz holds a press conference before noon. "This hysteria is exactly the problem," he says sharply. "No one is censoring anyone. But no one is above scrutiny." A reporter asks, "Do you regret calling Jimmy Kimmel a clown?" Cruz doesn't hesitate. "No," that single word detonates across social media. Trump posts again that afternoon. Longer this time. "When comedians become political operatives, they should expect political consequences," the post reads. Free speech goes both ways. Within minutes, hashtags collide. Hashtag stand with Jimmy. Hashtag hold Hollywood accountable. Celebrities weigh in. Some cautiously. Some boldly. Others stay silent. And that silence speaks loudly too. A-list actors tweet support, then delete. Musicians post cryptic lyrics. One late-night host opens his show with a joke, then visibly hesitates before finishing it. The country is watching itself argue in real time. Then the FCC breaks its silence. A brief statement, carefully worded, neutral, but unmistakable. No formal action has been taken, it reads. However, concerns raised by public officials and citizens alike warrant further discussion. Discussion. The word lands like a hammer. That night, cable news runs wall-to-wall coverage. Split screens again. Trump, Cruz, Kimmel. Panels shouting past each other. One commentator says, "This is a culture war." Another says, "No, this is a power struggle." Jimmy Kimmel watches none of it. He sits alone in the darkened studio after the show, audience gone, lights low. The desk is still warm where his hands rested. He runs his fingers along the edge, lost in thought. A stagehand hesitates nearby. "You okay, Jimmy?" Kimmel looks up and smiles faintly. "Yeah," he says. "I think so." But when he's finally home, when the house is quiet again, the weight hits him. Not fear. Not anger. Responsibility. In Texas, Ted Cruz stands in his kitchen, tie loosened, watching Kimmel's monologue replay one more time. His phone buzzes with praise and pressure in equal measure. He turns the TV off before it ends. "This went further than I expected," his wife says carefully. Cruz doesn't answer. He stares at the blank screen. Somewhere else, Donald Trump watches the chaos unfold with measured satisfaction. He hasn't won anything tangible. No votes cast. No laws passed. But he's shifted the conversation. Days later, the story begins to evolve again. Not quieter, but sharper. Universities host debates. Comedy clubs hold free mic nights. Viewers flood comment sections, arguing, defending, questioning. People who never cared about late-night television are suddenly passionate about punchlines. And Jimmy Kimmel? He returns to his desk the following week and opens the show with a joke. Just one. Simple. Human. The audience laughs, and then applauds even harder. Because they understand now. This wasn't just a celebrity clash. It wasn't just Trump versus Kimmel or Cruz versus comedy. It was about who gets to speak, who gets to laugh, and who decides where the line is drawn. And now it's your turn. What do you think crossed the line, comedy, politics, or power itself? Was this accountability or intimidation? Drop your opinion in the comments. Let us know where you stand. And if you want more explosive cinematic stories where fame, influence, and confrontation collide, subscribe to Celeb Plus Tales right now. Like this video, share it, and stay with us, because the next story is already brewing, and you won't want to miss it.